Now, Chennai reels for the aftermath of heavy rains. Even as the IMD withdrew red alert in Chennai, much of the city remains flooded. While no fresh showers were reported in Chennai, parts of the city is still underwater, with residents wading through knee-deep waters. Reports of blackouts across the city also a cause of concern for residents. Officials were also seen trying to pump water out in an attempt to clear water from flooded areas. In fact, India Today also gets you a drone view here of the aftermath of the incessant rains. Chennai received 77% excess rain this monsoon season. Heavy rains battered the city for over 24 hours yesterday. IMD, however, predicts heavy to very heavy rainfall for parts of Chennai today. 14 people have died due to incessant rainfall in Tamil Nadu so far.
I'm standing in the Alvarpet area of Chennai, and you can see around me the kind of deluge. You know, it's a day after the rainfall and nobody would believe it, because look at the amount of water around me. And this isn't just one part of Alvarpet. Almost every single lane of Alvarpet looks like this, if not higher amount of water. Yesterday, the water here, I must say, was much higher. I visited here yesterday, the water was at least up to my waist. Now it's gone down. But there's still a lot of work that needs to be done by the administration, by the authorities, to ensure these areas are immediately cleared up. The water levels are only going up in some parts of Alvarpet, because efforts being taken by the administration right now, even to clear it, hasn't been helping because of the amount of water in these particular parts of Chennai. These are parts of North Chennai and Central Chennai that have been worst affected really by the heavy rains. In these parts, when I came yesterday too, there was a lot of water, there was a lot of destruction, a lot of trees also fell in these areas, which you can see on your screens right now, of the kind of damage that the heavy rains and the winds brought about in these parts of Chennai. It's going to take at least a few days for things to return to normalcy here, for the water to drain off, and particularly for the roads to also be cleaned up, because it's left behind a huge mess here. I'm standing in this water that you see in these lanes, and you can make out how dirty it is as well. And for all you Chennaiites watching this broadcast, don't even think for a second of venturing out of your homes. If you see this kind of flooding, don't step out. It's extremely unhygienic to walk in this water. We're doing our duty. We're here to show you what the situation is on the ground. Down these lanes, in almost every single part of Alvarpet, you can see that there is in fact a lot of inundation. What authorities are doing on the ground is they're constantly pumping out this water. You can't make out, but for me at least, in any of these lanes as to exactly where the drains are. And that's what's led to a lot of questions on exactly why these drains weren't cleared beforehand. Look at how vehicles, people are struggling. You know, they have no choice but to wade through this water to head to their homes, to head to their workplaces, as they try to essentially ensure that, you know, they make ends meet, they go back to normal life. But for all of this water to drain off, it is going to take a lot of time. The memories of the downpour that we saw in the city of Chennai will remain with the people here for years to come. Is it as bad as 2015? I can tell you that in 2015, there was a lot more water, and it wasn't just limited to some pockets. So while it's not as bad with regards to, you know, the amount of water, it's still very, very troublesome for Chennaiites who live in these areas, or even people who work here, who are forced to take their cars out, kind of try as hard as they can to drive through these parts and somehow get to their workplaces. And that's what you're seeing here in almost every single lane of Chennai, every single lane of Alvarpet. There's a lot more traffic on the roads today. Yesterday, you know, there was a sense of emptiness on the streets of Chennai. Today, that's not the case. And that's why you're seeing that so many people are forced to drive through, ride through their bikes on these lanes. You see efforts being made to close off some of these parts, because also the danger is that there are a few parts where there are open drains. So people are having to be extra careful while they venture out. Unfortunately, there have also been reports from different parts of Chennai of injuries, rain-related ones, especially because of the fact that many ditches are opened up and they have no idea where they are. You see how some vehicles are forced to really plow through this kind of a situation, go right through it, and somehow get to where they have to. And that's the reality, really, that while you see this kind of deluge, people of Chennai don't really have a choice but to go about their normal life, go about their daily life, and somehow try to ensure that, you know, there is a sense of normalcy that slowly creeps in. But the difficulties are aplenty for the people of Chennai in areas like this, in Alvarpet, in T Nagar, in Nungambakam, in low-lying areas of South Chennai, Velachery, Mudichur, all of these places are completely inundated. There is still a lot of water that needs to be cleared out in these parts. With video journalist Shivamurthy, this is Akshita Nandagopal reporting from Alvarpet in Chennai for India Today. It's a sunny day here in Chennai, but that's brought only a very temporary respite for Chennaiites. I'm standing in T Nagar in Chennai. This is in North Chennai and is one of the worst affected parts of the city because 24 hours since the rain, you're still seeing the remnants of the deluge. There's water everywhere. And yes, compared to yesterday when I was here, the water levels definitely have gone down, but it is still no doubt at this point a huge pain for residents in these areas. There's water in many homes at this point. They're trying very hard to pump it out. But for authorities too, this is a challenge. Look at the amount of water, and we're going to take you through, giving you that aerial view here on India Today of the extent of devastation that this rain, this downpour that we saw for 24 hours and more has caused in parts like T Nagar. These are the usual victims of flooding, of inundation, but this time perhaps worse than ever before. For residents in these areas, they're still hoping that the authorities will come today and pump out all the water that's still remaining. The authorities, of course, say that this is going to take some time, that they have nowhere to drain the water right now, and all the drains also in these areas, you can't even see where they are, as you can see in that footage. You can't see where they are. They're completely blocked up. They're completely clogged. So there are efforts being made not just to ensure that the drains are cleared up, but to also ensure that they can pump out this water. We're showing you how every street of T Nagar currently looks. This is the situation where water levels are still pretty high. It's below the knee, but there definitely is entering homes as well. For many of the residents here, particularly those who live in the smaller by-lanes of T Nagar, they're struggling right now to get hold of even essentials. With this kind of dirty, unhygienic conditions that they're living in right now, there is an effort to ensure that they can get access to clean drinking water. That's something that the administration is also helping them out with. You can see around me that despite all of the water, there's a lot more traffic on the roads than what we saw yesterday. And that's because the all clear has been given as far as the weather is concerned. But for a true sense of normalcy to return in these areas, we're going to be seeing a lot more time really. It's going to take at least a few days, which is why the focus of the administration is on ensuring that the water is cleared up as soon as possible. Besides that, the other issue also that has to be addressed here is that the Met Department has said that for now there is respite. There's no more heavy depressions or a big weather system that's coming Chennai's way. But having said that, with this being the state of affairs in places like T Nagar, it's not just about the weather anymore, but also how the authorities can actually clear up these entire areas. You've got a lot of people right now struggling to cope. Shops around me are still closed at this point because of the fact that water levels still remain high in many parts of T Nagar. Many of the residents have been advised to stay indoors. They're trying very hard to clear up their homes as well. You see around me, I'm going to take you through some more lanes here across T Nagar in North Chennai to show you the extent of the deluge in T Nagar and in other parts of North Chennai. Across these lanes too, it's filled with water. You've got water right up to the end. Vehicles, of course, are plowing through because right now the water levels have gone down. But for people who live in the smaller by-lanes of these areas, they're struggling right now. They're not able to wade through this water every time they need to get something. And they are asking authorities to come and clear up these areas as soon as possible. I can tell you that on the ground, the authorities are here trying to pump out the water at the earliest. But it's a mammoth task at hand and something that will take at least 24 hours or more to get done with. Now, even as we're getting you the details in this aerial view of T Nagar, I can tell you that many other parts of North Chennai also face a similar predicament. With video journalist Shivamurthy, this is Akshita Nandagopal reporting from T Nagar in Chennai for India Today.
We are at S. Kolathur, Kovilambakam, and what we can see here is above the knee level water in most of the areas here. The water is not receding. One, because of the nearby lake that is overflowing already. The Narayanapuram lake is just a few hundred meters from here, and the overflowing water from there is inundating this neighborhood. And what we can see here is a sight of shock, because this has been happening for the last 5 years. In 2015, 2017, and now again in 2021, this kind of a situation is visible in this locality. Inundation is a normal affair all through the city. We've seen that in KK Nagar, Ashok Nagar, T Nagar, and tell us any location, and most of the areas have witnessed this kind of an inundation. But unfortunately, in this area, for the water to seep out, it's taking much more time. And when will the normal part come back to life? That's something that we'll have to wait and watch. With camera person Daniel from Perungalathur, this is Akshana for India Today.